Alright, you can see I've got this off the trailer and onto some stands. And my first order of business is to remove this little box type thing in here. Lighting is going to be awful, so I'm just going to do it and show you what I did afterwards. Alright, so I took out the wall that he had built here and exposed the wires. There is a wire, two wires that are in this plastic sleeve here, and they run from there all the way to the back of the trailer. That's where the battery setup is. But I'm going to change that because I need this space here. And so what I'm going to do, so I'm going to raise this up. I'm going to reconfigure all this. I'm going to pull the two wires out of that tube there, and then I'm going to build some walls in the corner for USB and put a little shelf up here. There we go. These move the electrical. Alright, so I've moved the electrical. So here's where those wires come out the front. Got them going here towards the middle, and then I'll build something later to hold that. I have to skin this, of course, and put some insulation in there. That's good for now. So I cut these boards, they're about 9 inches outside to outside, and I'm just going to glue them in place. I've cut a hole for the USB ports, I've already wired that in. And because I don't want any screws showing, I'm just going to take this board, set it up here, and it's enough weight to hold it in place while the glue dries. Let me show you what I've been up to. So last you saw I put in these corner pieces. They kind of hide the wires. Now I put a shelf in here, and the wires are running back in here, and I've made this little box here. And what I did is I drilled a hole up through the shelf, and I attached a little nut here up through here so that I can tighten this up. I'm doing a little test here. I got a comment in my last video from somebody, I thought it was a pretty good one, that when I mentioned that I was going to bring in that back wall so that I could fit the cooler, that he suggests that I stretch out and figure out how much space I really need. So I've made this little jig here. This is 5.5 inches from here to here, and I'm putting it in against the back wall. When I have my feet up against that, my head just touches here. So this is 6'5" right now, and of course I don't normally sleep this way, but it is nice to stretch out. Normally I sleep on my side, and I'm not touching either way, so most of the time it's fine. But I can see where this might be a little too tight. So I don't think I'm going to bring that back wall up. I would like for the cooler to go down in here, but since I'm not moving this wall back any, I'm going to have to move this wall out. What I think I want to do is when I bump this out, I want to give it a little bit more room so I can put insulation on the bottom, the sides, and make a lid that has some insulation on it as well. That'll boost this performance from what they say is 5 days to a little bit longer. So now the question becomes, how do I remove this without ripping it apart? I've taken all the screws out, but of course he glued it in there. I think what I'm going to do is strike a line down here and use my circular saw. Hopefully I will miss any screws that we put in here. I know I use pocket hole screws for these panels. And I've got the depth of the saw to just shy of this inside plywood. That was kind of cool. All right, now for a little gentle persuasion. That worked. So I'll probably need a new blade after that, but that actually worked pretty well. Most screws are pretty soft, so those carbide blades go through pretty quickly, but you do double blade, so, and it's a little scary. I would not recommend that. So what I've done here is I've temporarily put in this brace in here, just with some 3 screws, and I put in the cooler where it's going to sit with a 3/4 inch piece of foam back there, and then I calculated how much I'm going to need, and then with an inch of wall in here as well. Then I was able to figure out where I'm going to cut these off at, and then I'm going to have to cut a board that's going to go in here. Alright, so now I'm going to epoxy and screw this into place. There's always something when you're working on these. So I want to, as I mentioned before, make sure I get this 3/4 inch insulation wrapped around this cooler. And right now, if I have this on here, this shelf is too low. Looks like I'm going to need to bring it up 1.25 inches to make my mark. That was my first ever pocket hole screw. Alright, so now these go together like that, and that should be the right angle on here. My new toy. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so now I've got my walls in. I've cut my insulation. Now I took the cooler. I can drop that in. I'm going to generally just leave that in there. And I took off the hinges so I can just access it this way. The hinges always got in the way. I'll be able to get in here, and I've got a siphon, one of those bulb siphons if I ever need to get the water out. I've got that in here too. I've also cut out a piece for the top. So I'll adhere that to my shelf that'll go on here. I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. That might be just on hinges here. I'm not sure yet. But I've got to build the hatch cover, and I got to build the galley. I got to do the skinning on the outside. I got to finish lights. Got a lot to do yet. So thanks for watching. I appreciate the support. More to come.